What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Big draft news today because the Seahawks last weekend, they finally did it. They took a quarterback. Not the guy that I necessarily wanted the most, but it was the guy that I predicted, so that's, bonus points for me there. Jalen Milroe. He is a Seattle Seahawk. That is pretty freaking cool, guys. Let's get into it. It is the Monday after the NFL draft. The Seahawks have a bunch of new players. So why don't we start just by recapping every single player that the Seahawks drafted in 2025. Seahawks opened up the draft with Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel with the number 18 pick. He is a lineman out of North Dakota State. He's primarily a right guard, but he can also play left guard. He can also play a tackle. He also played center in the Senior Bowl, so he can do a lot of different things. Then at round 2, number 50 overall, a pick that we're going to talk about in more depth in a little bit, South Carolina safety Nick Emenwari. Then in round 2, again at number 50 overall was tight end Elijah Arroyo of Miami. So they get a second round tight end, a guy who they think is going to start probably immediately. In round 3, at the 92nd overall spot, they took quarterback Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. Then they had a bit of a break. They didn't have any picks in round 4. In round 5, they take at number 142, defensive tackle Riley Mills out of Notre Dame. They took wide receiver Torrey Horton out of Colorado State at number 166. And then at 175, they took fullback Robbie Outs of Alabama. In the 6th round, they took guard Bryce Cabeldue out of Kansas at 192. And then in round 7, they had 3 picks. They took running back Damian Martinez out of Miami, guard Mason Richmond out of Iowa, and at number 38, 238 overall, they took a guy who I think is a huge steal in wide receiver Ricky White out of UNLV. Ricky White was actually a guy that I talked about a month ago when I was doing my wide receiver class, and I projected he would be more of a 4th or 5th round pick. The fact that we got him in the 7th round, he was a huge production type of guy at UNLV. I think that's going to be a massive steal for the Seahawks in this draft, but obviously we'll see what happens. But let's talk about Jalen Milroe, right? I think that is the big story of the draft. Obviously, Gray Zabel is going to be a game changer. Nick Emenwari is going to be a game changer. I love that we got the tight end. I love Riley Mills out of Notre Dame. But this is the big story, right, is that the fact that, for the first time in 15 years, I believe, the first time in 13 years, the Seahawks have drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round or higher. So the last time the Seahawks picked a quarterback on day 1 or 2, it was 2012, and it was, of course, Russell Wilson. Since then, they have picked one quarterback. It was Alex McGuff. He was picked in the 7th round. So basically, they haven't picked a quarterback. They haven't really picked a quarterback since Russell Wilson, unless you count 7th round Alex McGuff, which you could count that, but I don't think that matters a whole lot for the scope of what the scope of the whole team, right? So Jalen Milroe is a big swing, right? He's a dual threat guy, very similar to Russ in that way. He can run the ball like crazy. Nick Saban, he believes that Jalen Milroe is going to be a game changer. Nick Saban's been really beating the drum for Jalen Milroe. What's really interesting to me is that the Seahawks, they met with 2 quarterbacks in this entire process. They met with Shedeur Sanders and they met with Jalen Milroe. Those are the only 2 quarterbacks they met with. I think they discussed Tyler Shaw, but I don't think they actually met with him. They did not meet with Jackson Dart, who I really liked and who ended up going in the 1st round of the Giants. That's okay. I wouldn't have picked Jackson Dart in the 1st round. I know if you guys follow the channel, I was very in on Jackson Dart, but I always said, if it's in the 1st round, I would wait till the 2nd round to pick Jackson Dart, and I would wait until the 3rd round to pick Jalen Milroe. That's exactly what they did. They took Jalen Milroe when he was still available at number 92. I really like the pick. I think that Milroe, as a backup, is a very qualified, competent backup quarterback, and I think he could develop into a starter. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying he could. Now, 3rd round quarterbacks lately haven't done a whole lot in the league, so that's worth keeping in mind. I think the last great 3rd round quarterback is actually Russell Wilson. I mean, if you go back and look at QBs drafted in the 3rd round, I'm looking this up right now to kind of get a gauge on which quarterbacks have been drafted in the 3rd round. Desmond Ridder kind of turned out to be a bust. Hendon Hooker was drafted last year in the 3rd round. Haven't really seen him yet. He's the backup for the Lions right now. Malik Willis in Tennessee, that was a bust. Matt Corral in Carolina never really got a chance to play. Kellen Mond, never got a chance. Davis Mills was a bust. Will Greer didn't get a chance. Mason Rudolph was okay. Obviously, he did lead the Steelers to a 6-6 record and actually started a playoff game for them, but still, it wasn't great. C.J. Beathard was terrible. Davis Webb never played. Jacoby Brissett was a third-round pick, and he's been decent. He's probably the best. He was in 2016, but that's the best so far. Cody Kessler never really played. Garrett Grayson never really played. Sean Mannion never played. Mike Glennon got a big contract, but was never all that good. And Russell Wilson, and then Nick Foles as well in the same draft. So really, you have to go back to about 2012. Russell Wilson and Nick Foles, a pair of Super Bowl MVPs, were both drafted in the third round of 2012. And then after that, you get some more guys. Colt McCoy had a decent run. Kevin O'Connell became a great head coach. Trent Edwards, Charlie Whitehurst. So there's some dudes in here. There's some names. But really, the best this century, honestly, is probably Russell Wilson. Josh McCown played for a long time. Matt Schaub, they were both drafted in the third round in the early 2000s. But if you want to really say the guy in the third round who's had the best career in this century, since the 2000, excuse me, guys, it is Russell Wilson. So the Seahawks needing to hope that Jalen Milroe can be the next Russell Wilson, essentially. Now, is he going to be? I don't know. For a third-round pick, you really can't know what's going to happen there. But I do like the draft. I do like the choice. I think, if nothing else, he's a competent, capable backup, which the Seahawks, they need that. I think he can back up Sam Darnold admirably well. All right, let's talk about the big trade. In the second round, the Seahawks are giving up one of their 2 third-round picks to move up in the second round. They get star safety Nick Emenwari, kind of a controversial pick, I've been told. Nick Emenwari is a guy who has probably the best measurables, maybe of all time, certainly in that draft class out of South Carolina, the former Gamecock. Nick Emenwari, 6'3", 220 pounds, 32.5-inch arms, 9-inch hands. His prospect grade, 6.41, one of the highest prospect grades in this entire draft. He will become a good starter within 2 years. His athleticism score was 91, the best of all safeties in this draft. His production score was 82, which is also the best of all safeties in this draft. His total score, 85. He was ranked as the top safety available. Again, safeties, they don't always necessarily go early on in the draft. He went at the number 35 pick. A lot of people were projecting he could be in the first round. NFL.com projected him right around beginning of round 2, end of round 1. He ran a 4.38 40-yard with a 1.49 10-yard split, 43-inch jump, 11-inch broad jump, 20 bench press reps. Lance Zierlein says he's going to be like Jeremy Chin. He projected him to be a first-round pick. He says the assessment of Emenwari's tape could depend on which games you watch. He's a physical specimen with rare size and outstanding speed, but he doesn't always play with a first-to-the-action mentality and run support. When he gets it cranked up, he becomes a much more effective tackler and overall run stopper from sideline to sideline. He's capable of playing over the top, inside the box, or even matching up with pass-catching tight ends. He's upright with average transition. He has rare NFL traits and talent, so a boost in urgency can take him from a good starter to a Pro Bowl caliber player. So essentially, they're saying he might need to work on his instincts a little bit. He might need to work on playing with more urgency, playing with more anticipation. I think that those are things that can be coached. Those are things that can be, taught, especially with a defensive guru like Mike Macdonald as his head coach. I'm not that worried about Nick Emenwari, to be honest. I'm not sure why people really hated that pick, but I am really in on Nick Emenwari. I think he could be the next, maybe the next Cam Chancellor, or at least maybe the next Earl Thomas. I think he can be a great safety, and I think, honestly, the Legion of Boom, it's coming back, right? We got Reek Wallen, we got Devon Witherspoon, Julian Love, Pro Bowler, and now Nick Emenwari joining the fray. I love this. He's going to be a day one starter. I think he maybe won't have a great production next year just because he's more known for playing free safety. I think he's going to play strong safety for the Seahawks, as Julian Love is kind of already that free safety guy. So Emenwari, he is going to kind of have to learn a new position, but from what we've seen out of him in college, this is a great athlete. I think he's going to have a fantastic career in Seattle. And that brings me to the question, who was the Seahawks' best pick in this draft, guys? And I had to do a lot of thinking about this because I really liked this draft. I really liked Emenwari. I think, honestly, the Seahawks, if you look at the guys that they selected, their first 3 picks are all going to be day one starters, right? Emenwari is going to be starting day one. Gray Zabel is starting day one, and so is your tight end. He is, I think, almost certainly going to start day one because I don't know what is going on with the Seahawks' current tight end room. Noah Fant, I believe, is gone. So yeah, they're obviously going to need. They're definitely going to start Zabel. I think they almost certainly are also going to be starting Nick Emenwari and Elijah Arroyo at tight end. Again, Jalen Milroe, not sure how to feel about it as far as starting goes, but I think he's a capable, competent backup. I like Riley Mills a lot. I think he can be an underrated guy at defensive tackle. I love that we took a fullback. I think that really fits in with Clint Kubiak's offense. And I think both Damian Martinez at running back and Ricky White at wide receiver could be underrated dudes at those respective positions. I think that they both maybe slipped a little bit, and the Seahawks picked them up in the 7th round. Took a flyer on them, but we've seen 7th round flyers become great players, and I think if anyone's going to do it, it could be Ricky White. But ultimately, guys, my favorite pick in this draft, I am going to have to go with Gray Zabel. It's kind of the chalky pick. It's the pick that everyone was projecting, but I just love it so much for this team because it just fits our needs so freaking well. We needed a guy who could just stand up in the O-line and be a great blocker, and that's what we're getting out of Gray Zabel. He's going to be a phenomenal blocker. He's going to stop the opposition from getting to Sam Darnold and or Jalen Milroe, and he is going to do what a lot of people believe the Seahawks haven't had in a long time, which is actually dominate on the offensive line, right? The Seahawks have not had a dominant offensive line in probably 10 years. At this point, they needed to go do it. They did it. I commend John Schneider a lot for breaking his habits and actually going out and drafting an offensive lineman who can help the team right now. That's what Gray Zabel can do, and I love his versatility. I love that he can play guard, tackle. He can play on the right side. He can play the left side. If he needs to slide in at center, he might even be able to just do that. But whatever helps the team most, that's who Gray Zabel is. He's a team player. I love it. I'm here for it. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Comment down below what your favorite pick was in the draft. And as always, until next time, go Seahawks.